Welcome to Tribeca 2026.
What's going on, world? Once again, it's your boy Derek Dunn back with another A1 interview. Today, I have the pristine privilege of talking to the gentleman behind arguably one of the most notable figures in hip hop, and his name is RJ, and he's the force behind Tupac Cover Up. He directed it, produced it, and he's a big authority on all things Tupac. So while I'm not the biggest Pac thing, you guys know I'm more into Biggie. I'm always down to hear anything about Tupac Amari Shakur, whether it be his acting, his hip hop, his poetry, his painting, and really actually what went down on that fateful week in September of 1996 when I was all of 15. So welcome to the line, sir. Thank you, thank
I,
you, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to chop it up with me.
oh man, thank you for the opportunity. We always love to talk to higher set minds and get down to what's real. So thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, so first and foremost, what was the motivation behind this doc? I know that it kind of correlates with the trial with Keefe D finally coming to fruition, but were there any other contributing factors to the doc?
Well, I've been doing docs on Tupac for about 19 years. Started with my first movie, which was called Tupac Assassination: Conspiracy or Revenge. And so for the last 19 years, I think I've done 8 documentaries about Pac and about not just the investigation, but his life and Digital Underground and other things like that. We When Keefe D got arrested in 2023, and I kept saying it over and over again, but finally we got to the point where it was a Keefe D got arrested, and I felt bad about that. I felt like he wasn't being I don't think he was being given a fair shake by Vegas PD, and so I wanted to get it out there and talk about, what maybe behind the scenes in it all, what might be behind why now of all things, and figure that out. So that was kind of what really got me into it, more than anything. If you look at the what KVD is being charged with today, he's basically being, because there's no gun, there's no car, there's no witnesses, there's nothing there. And the only thing that they're using is his own words against him in a book that he wrote, and he did some interviews after he wrote the book. But what kind of world do we live in where a man is going to get prosecuted and gets arrested for what he said? Because at the end of the day, that's what it is. It may be an inconvenient truth for some people, or it might be like at 8647 that was just on a flag. But when we start prosecuting people for telling a story, true or not, then that's a slippery slope, I think. I think that's a slippery slope. And I wanted to say something about that.
Facts. And I kind of want to pivot really quick. It's gonna kind of change the flow of the interview really quick. But you brought up a good
Sure.
point just about how you feel about Keefe D. Not here to talk about the guilty or the innocent and everything, but just
Right.
not getting a fair shake. And it just dawned on me thinking about how Pac was when he had his incident in Atlanta, cops
Yep.
and everything, he knew his rights. And I think one of the biggest things in 2026, as I look at my own son, just graduated high school, he's going off to college in August, that we as men, black and brown men especially, need to be adamant about letting our young kings know your rights. Know your rights. When the cops stop
Yes.
you, know what they can and can't do to you, know what to
Yep.
say, because you have rights, and don't let them scare you into something that's going to put you in a worse situation. It's more all about how you come across when you're
Yep.
presenting, your rights and when you're talking to, the boys in blue.
Right. Absolutely. I think it's critical to know where you stand at all times with them. Yeah, big time.
So with this doc, while you're doing your research, was there anything new that you found out that you weren't already aware of, since you already know so much about the pot case?
Yeah, during I worked as an executive producer for Nick Broomfield's documentary Last Man Standing. It was his follow-up to Biggie and Tupac, and I was executive producer on that show. During that time, I was lucky enough to get a substantial portion of the Vegas police files released. They were given to me. And so I was able to actually look under the hood, so to speak, to see what had happened in the investigation. And for an investigation that's been going on almost 30 years now, you'd be surprised to find out that they did tape recorded interviews with 9 people. That's it. With all the people that were there and everything like that, they actually put the microphone down and they recorded 9 people. And 8 of those 9 people, their interviews were recorded within a week of the shooting. After that, not a lot was done. And I think that was the biggest revelation because, we always push up against the old ongoing investigation. Oh, the police say, oh, we got an ongoing investigation. We can't share anything with you about where we're at with anything. And institutional distrust gets us to say, well, are you really doing anything with it? And turns out, in this particular case, they weren't. There was really nothing going on. They were able to take a whole year's worth of work and summarize it for every year into a couple of paragraphs. And that's sad to me because, this is a human being whose life got taken. And to have that kind of, I don't know, the negligence really is what I consider it to be on investigating the case. I think that was the biggest thing that shocked me was the lack of amount of work that was done.
Facts. And, when you think about other rappers that, have gone on, the cases, they go unsolved. It's almost like you hate to say it that sometimes the media and law enforcement, they have that whole mindset of live by the gun, die by the gun, which is unfortunate. But
Yes.
with Pac and with Biggie, just to happen 6 months apart and be almost 30 years, well, 30 years for Pac in September, and then,
Yep.
30 for Biggie in March 2027, it's still just a huge, huge loss. And
Absolutely.
I don't, unfortunately, it's like, I mean, you hate to say it, but it's like, I don't think that there's anybody right now, maybe outside of Jay, that if they were to kind of go out the same way, that the loss would be as monumental as it was for Pac and Biggie. Because I mean, no matter
Yeah.
what, it's just like when Prince passed, when Michael passed, you knew exactly where you were when you heard the news that,
Yep.
Pac is
Yep.
gone and Biggie's gone. And it still speaks to their longevity on what they accomplished, and then folks still talk about them, all this time later.
hmm Absolutely. They left such a huge impact, and their star was on the rise at the time. I mean, it wasn't like they were in this period where you see a lot of artists now that are hit the 30s and 40s and they're kind of coasting a little bit. They go to the club, they do all their greatest, hit couple songs, but you don't see anything new coming out of them. Pac was just prolific. He was just writing and writing and writing and writing. So the amount of work that not only has surfaced, but that he could have been working on, speaks volumes. So, I look at it, that's the hardest when you have that tree that's growing and it's cut right at the stump. You're never going to see what that tree produces because you cut it out. And that's I think why people still struggle with the death and the circumstances surrounding his death because he was so big in life. Same thing with Biggie. They were so big in life that people want to make the death and make the whole thing that happened in September make that make sense in the same kind of scale that they lived. You know what I mean? Where it's like that it's got to be such a big conspiracy or such a grand conspiracy because he lived so big, his death should be as big as his life.
Yeah.
And I think people get caught. I think people get caught on that a lot. I think it's an easy trap to fall into.
Yo, what's going on? This is Drizzy Drake.
Hi, this is Rihanna.
Hey, what's up? This is Ludacris.
For rocking with the best, it's Reviews and Done.